Hello, you amazing friends, and happy Monday. Welcome to our legendary LinkedIn Live interview with none other than your pal Edwards here and Adeel Rizvi. Adeel Rizvi, how are you today, my friend?
Hey Ed, I'm pretty good. Thanks for having me today, and a big warm hello to all your viewers around the world, actually.
Pleasure. And I just realized it looks like we're in the same room, Adeel. Are we like on opposite sides of the room or something? We've got like, it looks identical, doesn't it?
Kind of. Maybe we are sitting in two adjacent rooms trying to do a LinkedIn live.
There we go. We
Not
can play
really.
afterwards. We can play some Counter Strike afterwards, like a few multiplayer games against each other. A bit of
Oh,
StarCraft too, maybe.
maybe. I'll pretty much lose to yourself. I'm I'm pretty hopeless at those games. My son may be able to win that, but I'll probably place him against you.
There you go. There you go. But friends, I just want to say thank you for tuning in from across the world. If you're here live or watching the recording, big thank you. Smash that like, share, and comment. Adeel Rizvi is one of our wonderful friends from Sydney. And he is a massive leader in the property and investment space. And Adeel, so good to have you with us. Adeel, please tell us a little bit about you and the crazy world that we live in. What are you seeing in the market and everything, Adeel?
Oh, the world is definitely going crazy right now. There's a lot of uncertainties around the world. Some of them are being couple of wars which are happening right now,
Yeah.
which I don't really want to go in much into the detail
Yeah.
of. But it is a crazy world right now, and people have questions. People are facing day-to-day challenges with rising cost of living, and in that kind of an environment, people are like, what are my options? What are my choices? How do I keep afloat? How do I make sure that my living expenses are being met all the time? These are the questions people are facing, not just in Sydney or Australia, but I think across the globe right now. What is your take on that?
Oh, absolutely brilliant. And just quickly checking in, we've got Ken Dunner with us. Ken Dunner, a big welcome. If you just come in, a big thank you. Just to let you know, everyone, I have got my phone in my hand. Please don't interpret it as a sign of disrespect. I'm actually using my phone to keep up with all your comments and engagement. So if I'm looking at my phone, it's not disrespect, it's my love for you. But I agree with you. I think it's fun. Again, I don't mean to be political, but let's have the conversation, right? For those across the world, over the weekend, we had an interesting referendum. Basically, the whole yes, no Indigenous vote. And of course, as well, the referendum went no. And I've been speaking to a lot of my friends. Yeah, in full disclosure, I am a member of the Liberal Party, and which is mostly a no party. And I spoke to a lot of my friends in the no party, and they're saying because the no vote got in, it's very likely our government will be a one-term government. So I find that fascinating. It's a lot of people are saying this government administration is done for. So it's going to be fascinating. In fact, the way I see it, if this government is a one-term administration, it's going to be good for the property market when the Liberals get back in. What do you think, Adil?
Oh, well, that's always the myth, isn't it? People believe when the liberals come back, it's good for the property, and vice versa when labor is there. Uh, my take is slightly different on that, and that my take is based on all the data research that we do. And once we study the markets across Australia, not just Sydney or Melbourne, but we study them across the good regional areas as well. We also study them across other capital cities like Brisbane, which is really booming, like Perth,
Hmm.
Adelaide, Hobart. So there are markets within markets, and looking at the data, if you go by the data, to be perfectly honest with you, Ed, it doesn't really depend on which government is there. It's more dependent. The property market is more dependent on what's happening at the local level. Of course, it does get impacted by the grants and the investment that is being put in by the state governments and also the federal governments in trying to build up new areas. That also increases the demand in the established suburbs. But whether it's liberals or greens or labor at the top doesn't really impact how the property market works in the country.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm disappointed because I wanted to sit here and just rip into the Labor Party and how they're destroying our country. But there you go, a deal. Yeah, a deal. That's why I love a deal because one of the things about a deal, and you can see on me, is I'm very emotional. I'm like, yeah, Labor's lost. Go Liberals. Liberal good for property. And a deal walks in and said, "That's lovely, Edward, but this is what the actual data is saying." And that's what I love about you, a deal, because you're a very, very data-driven guy. To be honest with you, I think too many people, me included, having shot myself here, too many people are emotionally driven. And we're talking before about emotional buyers, right? Tell us all about emotional buyers, because I get it. I come from an Arabic background. I get hot-headed very easily, right? I've got to watch what I say right now, right? Yeah, there you go. In fact, where are you from, Adeel, for our viewers? What's your, side note, where's your heritage? Where are you from, Adeel?
I'm originally from Pakistan, and we lost at the hands of India in the Cricket World Cup just a couple of nights ago. So don't want to talk about it,
Oh,
even though I brought it up, but I just can't
oh,
get over it. But having
oh.
said that, I'm
Sorry
from
about that, Adeel. Sorry about that, Adeel. I hate it when I lose to the opposing team, so I'm sorry about that, Adeel.
yeah. So yeah, I'm from Pakistan. Have been in Australia for more than 10 years now, and yeah, I mean, everyone is emotional. To be honest with you, we make emotional choices, we make emotional decisions, and property is a big emotion for all of us. And there's a bit of a background to that as well. Like, we as Aussies, we always believe that we are property experts, because guess what, we just love property, and we love to talk about it. Any barbecue talk, any backyard parties, we have to talk property and we all are experts, and that gets our emotions associated with the subject, and based on that we do make decisions as well. So every time I'm working with a property buyer, my simple advice to them is, yes, you are emotionally attached to a property, you really like the color of the wall, or you really like the fact that it has some really nice landscaping done, but just make sure, take a step back and try and understand if it's a really good investment for you. Will it work in your portfolio? Is it something that will allow you to buy more properties in 2 to 3 years time or 5 years time? So these are the questions you need to ask, and everyone needs to ask. And I'm not saying that you should not have emotions. It's just about keeping those emotions in check and making sure they don't actually make you decide on things which you would probably be regretting later on.
As I remember, I remember when we interviewed you on one of our networking events, you were talking about this as well. How in auctions, right? You were saying how the goal of an auction is to get everyone emotionally amped up so they pay more than what it's worth. Can you please expand on that, Adeel, and tell us all about it?
Yeah, auctions is a very good example, and thanks for bringing it up, Ed. We go to auctions, and that they are pretty common in Sydney and Melbourne specifically, not that much commonplace in other cities of Australia. But auctions are primed and they are designed actually to get you emotionally motivated and get you going and put higher and higher offer in, and be it by just $500 or by 1 grand. But you don't realize that every time you put that 500 or 1 grand up or 2 grand up, you have actually moved quite far away from what you could actually afford. And then you're stretching yourself. And then the question comes down to, should you really be stretching that far? And my quick tip on this platform for any buyers who are looking to go out for auction or planning to go for one, you really need to know what that property is worth. Because once they know what it is worth, no matter how emotionally they feel connected to it, they will know when to put a stop to it and walk away from there. Because winning at auction is not the goal, it's winning at the right price. That's what the goal should be.
Oh, brilliant. And I know you do a lot of property research. And again, I'm not asking for behind the curtain, but, and I've seen your research before. So whenever you're, let's say, recommending a property to one of your clients, or a client's approaching you saying, hey, Adeel, do you think I should buy this property or not? Tell us a bit about how you do the research and what are some of the common parameters you look at to help make those investment advisory moves you make.
Yeah. So do you have 2 hours for me to answer this question?
Yeah, I've got another 5 minutes. No, it's all right. Just top three. What are some of the top things you look
Yeah,
at?
I'll be very quick. Just kidding. So the whole idea is looking at the supply and demand at the local level, but we have to start at a higher level. So what we are actually doing is, at Ariza Buyers Agency, which is my company, and I'm the lead buyers agent at Ariza Buyers Agency. So the main focus that we have is understand what the client need, because every client's requirements are different from the other. Even if they're buying investment properties, some have cash flow requirements, some have capital growth, some have both. Some want to subdivide, some want to build a duplex, some want to subdivide and sell a piece of land. So everyone is different. Some want to just renovate and flip, make quick money. But the whole idea is, based on what their requirements are, we need to understand them first, and based on them devise a strategy and find a property accordingly. So the whole thing is, we start at the national level. We try and understand which markets we need to be in, which states are in a growth cycle. That's the term we employ, which essentially means in which states more suburbs are rising in value as compared to some other states. Now, every state always has some suburbs which are always rising in value. But that does not necessarily mean that that is a rising state. We have to look at other parameters as well. So filtering down further, we are looking at the council level, making sure at the council we have enough demand of properties. And for that, we need to figure out what kind of amenities are around there, what kind of schools are there, what kind of rankings do they have, what kind of healthcare infrastructure is there, what kind of higher education options are there, what kind of transport nodes are there, what kind of job opportunities are there for people, and how diverse they are. Sometimes some areas may have 5,000 job opportunities, but if those 5,000 opportunities are only for mining, for example, that is still not a good area, because yes, the jobs are there, people would come in and live and rent in those areas. But the problem is, once the mining goes away, the demand will suddenly nosedive. And that is not a good place to be having an investment property, because you will be struggling to find a tenant over there. So it's not just having jobs, but also understanding what types of jobs are there. It should be a mix of manufacturing, mix of healthcare, government services, education, tourism, white collar jobs, IT jobs, financial sector. So we are looking at all that data, and then we are coming up with a handful of suburbs to advise to our clients and say, okay, these are the areas where you should be investing in. This is where you will get good bucks for your money. You will get tenants who will be paying higher rents, and these are the tenants who will be willing to stay longer in your property. You won't have quick tenant turnaround every 6 months or 12 months, because this is a desirable area.
Yeah. No, but I love where you're going, Adeel, and I got to say you're absolutely in the zone. And I want to ask you a bit about cost of living as well. So, as we know, we've had a lot of interest rate rises in Australia. We've had a cost of living increase. What are some of your thoughts on that one, and where's it all going?
I think cost of living has been a challenge, and it was becoming a challenge even 18 months ago, 2 years ago, when we first started witnessing it post COVID. And I think my personal view is that RBA, the Reserve Bank of Australia, took too long to actually pull the trigger on the cash rate, and their commitment to say that the cash rate will not go up until 2024 at the beginning of 2022 was also quite misleading, because just 4 months after that they started taking the cash rate up. So within 4 months, their forecast for next 2 years was actually proven wrong by themselves. And essentially what that did was too many people over leveraged. They bought assets which they cannot now afford, because they thought that the interest rate will stay at 2% for forever. That's not the case. So I think cost of living is important, and people really need to understand, people who want to enter into property investment, this is still a good time, as long as you know what you can afford and what you can, how much money you need to pay from your pocket to hold on to that asset through this riding wave of interest rates. We have interest rates of 6%, 6.5% right now on average. This will come down. This will not stay there forever. It may come down in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. No one knows exactly when. But if for the next 1 or 2 years, my advice to people is, if you know your budget and you can fork out an extra, let's say, X amount of dollars every week and still hold on to a quality investment asset, that asset should make you much more money over the next 2 years than what you're spending on that, just holding on to it. So it's all about knowing your equation, knowing your cash flow strategies, and then working accordingly. You don't find positive cash flow properties anymore. It's not very easy.
Yeah.
They are very rare to find now, and they're usually not in the areas which have good capital growth prospects anyway. So if you're looking for growth and good rental income as well, you need to have a bit of money going out from your pocket in most cases. Again, this is not a financial advice. Please don't treat it as one, but this is just a journal comment which I've observed across the board.
Oh, Adeel, brilliant. Adeel, love your work. Thank you so much for being with us. And I got to say, I love your expert commentary. Adeel, can we get some closing thoughts from you? Tell us about anything you want to tell us about property. Give us some advice, and tell us a bit about how you work and how people can engage you.
I think the most important thing is, like, I love property. I love talking about property, and I'm someone who has learned about property over the last several years, and went on the journey of building my own property portfolio for my family, because the most important thing for us is that financial independence, and we are on our way to achieve that through property investing. So anyone who wants to explore that side of financial independence, we are currently offering a no obligation and a completely free uh, chat over the, like, a 20-minute chat which I'm offering with myself. So if anyone wants to explore what their property investing ambitions are, they can come on board, have a chat with me, and discuss what they're trying to do, and I can advise them accordingly, because for some people property investing may not be the right solution in this day and age. with this rising cost of living. So if anyone has any ambitions, which I think most of the people anyway have,
Mm.
using your platform, I'm happy to offer that 20-minute no obligation chat to them and just give my 2 cents as to whether they should really be doing investing, and if they should, then how should they start doing it? How should they start saving? What options they should be looking at? Probably looking at equity, looking at pre-approvals, things like that. So I'm happy to do that at this stage. But everyone should be considering uh, property investing as a tool for that financial independence, which doesn't happen straight away. It takes 10, 15 years, but it is a slow burn, but it does pay off in those 10, 15 years. It does pay off after that.
And tell us a bit about what financial independence is.
Oh, very quickly, financial independence usually, I think it's a very good question, because for a lot of people, financial independence is like, oh, it's about flying business class or first class every time, or it's probably having 4 luxurious holidays every year. Well, for me, financial
Yeah.
independence is just about having more financial choices in life. It's about having more freedom, more options in your life. For instance, if you know that if you make a decision today which will allow your child to get good university education 10 years later, and they will have $200,000 or $400,000 set aside in 10 years time, just by doing the right decision today, that is financial independence.
Mm.
Or if, for instance, for me, financial independence is that I don't have to work my back off. Instead, I
Yeah.
can spend some of the time during the working hours, the normal business hours, and I can sit down with my daughter and watch her do some painting, or attend her painting classes on a Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m. without having to worry that I should be working at this time because I have bills to pay and I have mortgage to pay. That is financial independence for me. So it really comes down to what people think about financial independence. It's not just about having a luxurious 1 million passive income coming in all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I agree with you actually, because to me, one of the biggest, this is post-military government days. One of the biggest frustrations I had was I hate it. I hate the risk of getting fired, the risk of getting retrenched. That always bothered me, right? As it's bothering a lot of people who are having it actually happen to them. To me, financial freedom was knowing I couldn't get fired, knowing I've always got work on. That to me is fantastic, because I know so many people these days are just terrified about being fired, and I've been there.
And I just spoke to my friend this morning, very, very close friend of mine, and he actually got fired 10 days ago. And he has been like a senior designer in terms of network security for a company. And for the first time in his, because he got a job when he was still overseas and he was transferred into Australia as a permanent resident. And for the first time in Australia in 10 years, he has to look for work. And
Yeah,
he has a young family, and for him, it's a nightmare. So
yeah,
this thing can happen with anyone at any time. So you just need to be prepared for that.
yeah. And to me, financial freedom, at least financial independence, at least in my interpretation, is having that protection. You can't get fired, and to me, that is just priceless. Because it's funny you say that. It's losing your job to me used to be a what if. It was like having a car accident. It doesn't happen to many people, but when it does, it does. These days, everyone gets fired. So I tell you what, Adeel, the world isn't as secure as it used to be. Is that a fair observation, you think, Adeel?
It is. And I will just say, for people, like financial independence, just to put it in very, very simple words, if someone wants to understand, it's about knowing that if I will work only if I want to work, but I don't need to work.
Yeah.
That is financial independence. If you can achieve that even partially, how more secure you will feel about your life, how much comfortable you will feel right over here. That's the main important thing.
There we go. There we go. Even though I am financially independent, this conversation's making me very happy. So there we go. So, friends, you've heard it from Adeel. Please connect with Adeel. It's Adeel Rizvi. He's a great guy. Feel free to reach out to directly or ask me for an intro. Adeel, thank you so much for your time. Can we get a quick closing thought from you before we end this live stream? Over to you, Adeel.
Thank you very much, Ed, for having me today and sharing my passion and talking about it. I think thank you for the opportunity and all the platforms that you have been providing up until now, whether it be through these live streams or through Zoom networkings that we have every Monday night and every Thursday night, which we will be having tonight as well, everyone, 8 p.m. Sydney time. And also your face to face meetups, which you run across Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and Canberra as well. So I've been to
Yes,
few.
in Melbourne, Brisbane, Canberra.
So love your growth and the way you've been providing platform for for other business owners, just like myself. My business has done really well ever since I've been introduced to yourself. So thank you so very much for what you have been doing for the community.
Adeel, I'm glad we discovered you. Adeel, thank everyone. Thank you so much, Adeel. Thank you all. Love your work, everyone. Keep up the great